Hello, thank you for clicking on the video. My name's Steve. This is Everyman Fragrances. Thanks for tuning in. You know I love you for doing so. Today I want to talk to you about an underrated blue fragrance. I say underrated, actually the people that know, they know, and it's quite highly rated. But it just is not that popular or as common as it should be, which is not necessarily a bad thing, actually. The fragrance I'm talking about is Bleu Noir, the EDP version from the house of Narciso Rodriguez. Now, I've tried a few times to say that with some sort of accent or sort of authenticity, and I've failed, so that's as close as it's ever gonna get, so deal with it. Yes, this fragrance is an absolute beaut, but I must confess, when I first smelt it, I was somewhat underwhelmed. Actually, when I first smelled this, it was because of Clement's CC Fragrance, the infamous YouTuber. She suggested it and got me to smell it in store once, and because she loved it. And when I smelt it, I was like, yeah, it's all right, it's nice, I sort of like it, but I was sort of just a bit underwhelmed. I couldn't fault it, but I couldn't really praise it either. So with this fragrance, the one thing I've learned is I think you've really got to kind of wear it to fully appreciate it, which I've done now many times, and I fully appreciate it. So yeah, bear that in mind. If you do go and smell it in store, maybe at least wear it and walk around for a few hours and try and get to know the fragrance a little bit before you pass judgment, because the opening is somewhat, I don't want to say bland, but just somewhat kind of safe, really, and unadventurous. But the fragrance itself has just got this warmth to it in the fragrance profile and in its character. There's just something really quite kind of pleasing and warming with this fragrance. The notes for this fragrance, at least those listed on Fragmental, don't really give you the full story of this fragrance in my opinion. When you're a frag head, you can kind of get an idea of at least the style of a fragrance as a bare minimum from just looking at the notes and if it's going to be your bag or not. Where the notes, as I say, the ones on Fragmental at least, don't really do that with this fragrance. So the ones listed are musk, vetiver, cedar, ebony and amber. Now, they just don't, to me, that's just deceiving. It's a deceiving note profile, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. Because on the opening of this fragrance, it's kind of very sort of fresh, and quite a lot of people on Fragmental are sort of saying it reminds them of CK1, and it's definitely not a clone of CK1, but I can see where they're coming from. In the opening at least, there is a sort of fresh fruity muskiness to the opening that isn't too dissimilar to CK1, but it's actually got a little bit more depth and it smells better quality than CK1. Not to diss it, because CK1 was my signature scent for fucking years, so I'm not going to knock that fragrance. But yeah, the opening is kind of a bit fresh and fruity and a bit musky, and I think that's the CK1 kind of opening, and that's what you get, and that's the one that I was probably a little bit underwhelmed with when I first smelt it. And again, possibly because I'm so used to CK1, but at the time I didn't really make any sort of connection to it. But when you wear this fragrance, that's when it sort of comes into its own, into the dry down. It sort of warms up, but still stays fresh. It's weird. It's a kind of weird fragrance to explain. So as it dries down, it gets a bit more woody, and a little bit, and the amber comes through a bit, but this is not an amber heavy fragrance, so don't think that this is going to be like, you know, really heavy amber or amber prominent, because it's not. It's kind of there, but the amber just gives it a little bit of backbone and depth and a bit of warmth to me. But yeah, this still remains kind of fresh in the dry down, yet it's something sort of warm about it as well. It's sort of, and actually, as my wife described it quite well, when I got her to smell it, she liked it, and she said it's comforting. And that probably sums this fragrance up really quite well, actually. I would say in the dry down, it's still quite clean and fresh, yet it sort of has some warmth from the amber and the woods, and it's just a very sort of comforting fragrance. But the one thing that the note profile doesn't really tell you about this fragrance, in my opinion, is the sort of powderiness that you get from it. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's the sort of, I don't know, it's just a combination of the amber, the musk and the woods coming together to have this powdery effect. But there's definitely a powderiness to it that is like a hint irisy. It's not a full-on iris where you're like, oh, that's definitely iris. But as you kind of wear it and get used to it, there's this sort of comforting talkiness to it, but not talky balls. that's sort of just reassuring, comforting, like my wife said, really. And there's just like this almost hint of kind of an iris violet kind of vibe, but I don't know if that's psychosomatic, where just I associate powderiness with iris and violet because it's not listed, or if there potentially is those notes in there and they're not listed them in the note breakdown. But there is a sort of, definitely a sort of irisy violet kind of combination that's quite subtle underneath, that's definitely there, that just adds to this sort of clean yet comforting vibe and nature of this fragrance. So to sum up, I don't think this is a sexy date night fragrance. I think you could easily wear it on a date. There's no qualms of it. It's not going to put anybody off by any means, but it's not a sexy fragrance. It's not going to drop panties or boxers or whatever you want to drop, in my opinion. But I do think this is hella versatile. This is making a great office fragrance. Just a great signature scent. As I say, that's just very pleasant to wear, quite clean, fresh, a bit powdery, comforting, all those sort of things you want from a signature scent, really, to be honest. So it's not too daring or challenging, so for some that might put them off, but as I say, this is not worn by that many people, so it's actually like a blue fragrance that is not worn by many people. It's not that popular or common, so you're not going to just smell like every man and his dog. Performance on this is an interesting one. It kind of behaves very much like an EDP, really. The projection is not beastly at all. It reins in quite close, so you'll get like 30 to 60 minutes of mild projection, I would say, and then it reins in, but it does seem to just hang on to the skin and last quite a while. So it kind of reins in quite close, but then does hang on. So you do get some decent longevity. I can smell this at the end of the day on my skin. It's a bit more of a skin scent, but it is there. So you're comfortably getting 6-7 hours out of this without any issue. But you're not really getting that much projection unless somebody's kind of coming in close. But again, that just adds to the sort of comforting signature scent style of the fragrance and the versatility that you can wear it in an office or, you know, just around the house without kind of choking anybody out. So yeah, performance is just very much like an EDP. Projection is a bit not great, but longevity is fairly good. So my final thoughts on this bad boy then is, this is not a fragrance that I can see myself ever having much of an emotional kind of attachment to or just being excited to wear. However, I've got absolutely no issues with this. I would feel very confident wearing this. I wouldn't be excited, but I would be confident knowing that I smell good. 99% of people are going to like it, and it's just not going to be out of place in any situation. So yeah, it's a funny one with this for me, because I do really like the fragrance. I can highly recommend it. I'd wear it quite comfortably, but I still just don't get excited by it. But then that's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's maybe not what you want from a signature scent or just a safe office everyday fragrance. And perhaps you want to save your exciting fragrances for the evening, going out, dates, weekends or whatever, and you just want something safe and inoffensive but smells really good and is just quite comforting and pleasant for everybody around. So yeah, in which case do check out Bleu Noir, the EDP version. As I say, I can highly recommend it. That's it. Thanks for watching. I do really appreciate it. What is your favourite from the house of Narciso Rodriguez? I would really like to hear. Do comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe and all that shit. You know the score. And I will see you for a video soon. Take care. Much love.